Island, the vice-captains of the Revolutionary Army, Usciano, Morley's subordinate, Ahiru, Bello Betty's subordinate, Gambo, Lindbergh's subordinate, and Jerome, Karasu's subordinate, notice a ship in the distance and start making bets about who is on it. To the Revolutionary Army's relief, the person on the ship is Sabo, alive and well. Eva says so he made it home okay, thank good. Yombel says I aren't coughing up a single berry, I knew something was up when you said you'd bet $1 million. Jerome says nah, I'll wring it out of you. Yombel says oh, you used those binoculars didn't you, and says you think you can get away with it by eating them. Everyone welcomes Sabo. Sabo says this is a Lulusian ship, I'll explain later, for now please help these people. Ahiru says Sabo I was just about to shoot you. Sabo says I'm glad you didn't. Everything okay Ahiru, were you worried? Ahiru says maybe a little. Usciano says Sabo safe, me happy. Koala starts attacking Sabo for going radio silent for so long, but he tells her he did not have a choice because he could not get his hands on an encryption den mushi, so any calls he would have made would have been monitored. He did send an indirect call signal to let them know he was alright, and as it turns out, he was not even on Lulusia at all when it was completely destroyed. Bello Betty remembers most of the people from Lulusia and learns they want to join the Revolutionary Army, though she tells them all to get some sleep first. Later, Monkey D. Dragon, Emporio Ivankov, and Sabo all sit together where Sabo learns about Bartholomew Kuma, who Dragon believes had a contingency installed to ensure his return to Mary Joieuse. Ivankov deduces that Sabo does not want the other commanders to hear what he has to say. Sabo confirms this and proceeds to tell everyone what really happened at the Laveli. Chapter 1083 titled The Truth of That Day, begins on Kamabaka Island. Sabo says we accomplished everything we set out to do, all 3 objectives were taken care of. We officially declared war. By destroying the celestial dragon symbol, we rescued Kuma and freed as many slaves as possible. Finally we managed to find and destroy the Holy Land's food reserves. Sabo asks so what was the fallout? Ivankov replies and says it was nothing to sneeze at, but we got the world's attention, and the Navy ended up sending in the big guns. Dragon says meanwhile we triggered uprising in 12 nations where we held strong influence, 8 of which were successful. Ivankov says well you say 8 were successful but one of them vanished, the kingdom Lulusia. As such, the 7 nations are no longer paying the heavenly tribute nor exporting natural resources. Ivankov adds that the Revolutionary Army is attacking world government supply carriers all over the world to keep resources from reaching the Holy Land. Ivankov considers this a huge success, as now, the people of Mary Joieuse can see what it is like to be deprived of food and money. Ivankov stands up and laughs, and says that's what I call a result. Dragon says indeed we may not be able to cut all their supplies, but we are squeezing them slowly, but surely they must be struggling by now. He knows, of course, that the world government will not accept this situation and will dispatch God's Knights, which Dragon says is the real battle once they mobilize. Ivankov tells Sabo that does he realize that he will be the #1 target, or should I start calling you Flame Emperor Boy? Sabo says I'm not too hot on that name. Dragon says it doesn't matter what the truth behind King Cobra's assassination was, the news report have made you a hero already, and he adds that in the eyes of revolutionaries everywhere, authority figures within the world government are hated for being superhuman monsters. While the air certainly many malignant, power-hungry despots who deserve that reputations, and there are also a number of intelligent and fair rulers. And Arabasta's King Cobra was in a class of his own. Everyone considered him to be an outstanding sovereign. Unfortunately misinformation spreads faster than nuances like that. Sabo says this might be cold to say, but while I feel bad for what happened to Cobra, but I think I can live with the way things turned out, if it helps fuels the flames of rebellion. Dragon says, my, you really are unspeakable. Ivankov says then spit it out already. As he shows a picture of Sabo standing over Cobra's body in the newspaper, and says what happened, is there any truth behind this scoop, and confesses everyone wanted to believe he did not kill him. In a flashback over a month ago at the home of the gods in the Holy Land of Mary Joieuse, the Revolutionary Army attacked Mary Joieuse not long after the reverie began. Several world nobles started fleeing out of fear. One of them says get out of here and help us you lousy bureaucrats. They blew up the storehouse. The intruders are with the Revolutionary Army. We are under attack. It's the 4 captains. This is outrageous. They first attacked our beloved symbol, and now the Pelbs have taken away our exquisite food. Does the jealousy of the vermin have no bounds? I don't even want to keep the heads, just dispose them. An ugly man says after that, summon all those dreadful bodyguards and have them executed. Those miserable wretches allowed this to happen. One of them tried to kill their slave for being too slow, but he is saved by Karasu, who steals the noble's gun and tells the slave to escape to the east of the city. The world noble's bodyguards open fire on Karasu, but he takes no damage. As it turns out, Karasu ate the susu no mi, which allows him to turn his body into soot and morph it to his will. With it, he dispatches his attackers using a move called obelisusu. Meanwhile, Lindbergh uses his inventions to free several slaves as Karasu notifies him that the admirals are on their way. It is not long before Karasu finds himself fighting Fujitora, using a move called Karasu Renkin to match Fujitora's gravity powers. Elsewhere, Morley is fighting Ryokugyu, though several world nobles demand Ryokugyu be more careful for collateral damage or they will hang him, forcing Ryokugyu to hold back. When he asks Fujitora what he is doing, Fujitora reveals he is about to call down a meteor, which Ryokugyu says is a bad idea. On the outskirts of the city, Jabra, Bluno, Khalifa, Fukuro, and Kumadori, who are all now members of CP0, watch the carnage and admit how tough the Revolutionary Army is to be able to contend with the likes of two admirals. Karasu then contacts Sabo, who was at Pangaea Castle trying to get the keys for the slaves' collars. Sabo also tells Lindbergh that he sees St. Charlos and his father Rosward riding Kuma, as well as telling him that Charlos still plans on making Shirahoshi his slave. In the end, Sabo contacts Morley to make sure everything is ready while he initiates his plan to save Kuma and stop Charlos. In addition, Jewelry Bonnie was running around the castle grounds too in search of her father. Meanwhile, Rob Lucci follows Nefertari Vivi, who is looking for Vice Admiral Garp to protect Shirahoshi. Vivi denies Lucci's help, following his refusal to help Shirahoshi earlier. She also says that she is sure that Charlos would try to kidnap Shirahoshi again, and she wants to make sure he cannot. Back at the castle, Cobra is told that only he can have an audience with the five elders. Pell and Chaka try to refute this, but Cobra has them stand down, instead asking them to look after Vivi for him and not let her out of their sights. Hey you, yes I mean you, before you leave don't forget to press that subscribe button, and what are your thoughts on this chapter? Leave your answers in the comments section below.